Welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. We're going to get right on into our session on today. I hope everyone is doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right. Here we go. What we're going to be talking about today, we're just going to be putting a question for all the married couples today. These are questions that you should know about your spouse, or you think you might know about your spouse, or how well do you know your spouse? Okay, number one, the first question we have here is, can you name two or more of your spouse's grandparents? Can you name two or more of your spouse's grandparents? Think about it. Sometimes you might know, depending on what the relationship your spouse might have with their grandparents, then you will know their names. You know them by names, or you know them by the name that they might call them. You know, they might call them Papa or Big Mama or something like that. You might know them by the name. Okay, here's number two. Do you know the stress your spouse is going through right now? Do you know if they're going through any kind of stress? Do you know what it is? Are you working together on it? And are you working to get through the stress together? Or do you know what it is? Number three, do you know your spouse's favorite movie or song? Musical song. Do you know their favorite movie or musical song? I know my wife can tell right away what mine is. Okay, here's number four. Do you know your spouse's favorite dessert? If you're a spouse that cooks and you cook around the house, whether it be the man or the woman, if you cook around the house, or the husband or the wife, you should know what your spouse's favorite dessert is. Because sometimes you have to prepare it for them, or you might have to go get it for them. The reason why we're doing these questions is, before we go to the next question, is because sometimes when we get married to our soulmate, sometimes we might not know some things about them, and then we should know certain things about them, general things we should know about them. But sometimes there's some complex things that you might not know, or you might find out later, and you don't want any big surprises or anything like that. So you might want to, sit down and ask certain questions, or see if you know the answer to certain questions about your spouse and your relationship. And it makes your relationship strong. Here's another one. Here we go again. Number five. Do you know the three places your spouse would love to visit? If you're a couple that go to different places on vacation, you try to plan good vacations or nice vacations or unforgettable vacations during your summers or your time off. Do you know the places that you and your wife have not been to, or you know where your wife would love to go to that you have not been, but you know they would love to go to? Excuse me. Do you know those answers? And sometimes it could be an exotic place, sometimes it could be going back home or something like that. Here's our next question, number six. Can you list the relatives your wife cannot stand, or your spouse cannot stand? Sometimes in your family you have those relatives that, hope they don't come over. When they gonna leave? Do you have any of those relatives that your spouse have that you know? Okay, here's another one. Can you list, or do you know your spouse's best friend? Do you know who your spouse's best friend is? So if you've been married for a little while, even if you have not been married for a little while, you should know who the best friend is, because sometimes they'll be the best man or the maid of honor in the wedding, in your wedding. If not, you would know who they are, because they generally talk to them a lot, or talk to them frequently, or they have a relationship with them that uh, goes past or before you guys get together. So, do you know who your spouse's best friend is? All right. Moving along here. Do you know precisely how and where your spouse likes to be touched? This is a this is a intimate one, or it could not be an intimate one. Do you know where they like to be touched? That's a good one there. Do you know that? You should know. If you're married, you should know that. Do you know where your spouse likes best about his or her job? Do you know where your spouse, why or what they like best about their job? My wife has been in her field for a number of years, and that's something she's always wanted to get into. So definitely, she knows. I know that she loves her what she does. Do you know your wife's least favorite task around the house? Do you know what your spouse least like to do around the house or can stand to do around the house? What is it, and do you take care of it? I know what my wife least favorite task is, and I usually take care of it. There's no big deal. But do you know what she hate to do around the house? There's always something, whether it be you don't like to do dishes, you don't like to cook, or you don't like to do laundry. It's something that one of you do not like to do around the house. And for the fellows, it might be they don't like to cut the grass, or they don't like to go up on the roof or to do anything, or they don't like to work on the car, and stuff like that. Do you know what that is? Do you know your Do you know what food your wife does not like or cannot eat? Yeah, you should definitely know that. Again, if you are a spouse that cook around the house, if you do anything around the house, you should know what your spouse does not like or cannot eat. Sometimes your spouse might be allergic to some kind of food or some kind of dish. So you should know what they are allergic to and what they don't like. Here is another one. Do you know the people or politicians who have been irritating your partner recently? Do you know what kind of politician irritates them? These questions are designed to see if you know exactly how your wife feels about some things or how your spouse feels about certain things. Uh, and there's always going to be some politician that irritates either one or the other, and we both know who that is. Can you describe your wife's philosophy of life? How she makes sense of the world? I can definitely say I know how she feels about things in the world. I can definitely answer that. Do you know what your wife wanted to grow up to be when she was a child? Again, she is doing what she wanted to do. She always wanted to be in the work in the field that she's in. She's always wanted to do that, and that's what she's doing now. What you have to understand is when you are in a relationship with someone, you should know their likes and dislikes. So every once in a while, you should sit down and ponder the thought, what they like and what they do not like, and the things that they want to do in life, what their visions are, what their dreams are in your marriage, and that way you'll have a plan or a vision to go forward in your marriage and take it to another level. Because again, we've talked about this so many times on the program. There's so many times where marriages end, where they end in divorce and separation and breakups. So you have to know, you keep your marriage successful. You have to really know your spouse. So you have to ask the questions: do I know my spouse? So when you know your spouse, it's a good thing. That way you won't, because if you don't know your spouse, sometimes you tend to take advantage of them, and you don't want to take advantage of them because you want to make sure that your marriage is successful. Because your children's that depends on how successful, sometimes how successful your children are in life. They look at your marriage, how successful they are in relationships as well, especially because they see how successful your relationship is and how well you know your spouse. So when they get involved with someone, they'll make sure that they know them, because you have to really know people nowadays before you get involved with them, because there's so many different. The world is so crazy now. It's not like it was years ago. Years ago, when you met someone, that's who they were. And nowadays, you have to check everything about your whoever you're thinking about spending your life with. You have to check everything about them. You have to know everything about them because you don't want any thing coming up, that's gonna come against your marriage. So you have to make sure that you know uh, what you're getting into. In other words. So let's continue with the. I have a few more questions here. Uh, do you know what your wife is most proud of? Do you know what she's most proud of? I think I can answer that. Do you know what your here's another one here. Do you know what your spouse is most insecure about? Do you know what your spouse is most insecure about? What bothers them the most? Do you know? Here's another one. Here's a good one here. Do you know what scent or smell your partner likes most? Yeah, I know what it is. Yes, there's a certain cologne that my wife loves for me to wear. Uh, Out of all the ones I have, there's one favorite that she likes, so she loves that stuff. Do you know which superpower or your wife wish she had? That I never talked about. So that's kind of a crazy one. You know, what kind of superpower would she wish she had? Can you talk in details about your wife or your spouse's dreams or life goals? We've talked about those. Yeah, I can definitely say that I know my wife dreams and goals, and that's another thing we were talking about. When you have a vision uh, between the both of you, you should have a vision where you want your marriage to go. Should have goals where you want your marriage to go, and that way when you reach your goals, you'll have a sense of fulfillment in your marriage. And sometimes there's marriages that doesn't seem to be fulfilled. It's just a matter of reaching your goal, sitting down, talking about it, and discussing things in your marriage, and where you want to go or where you want to be. If you plan on making a move, a life changing move, and sometimes when you make a decision to purchase a house or something, that's a life changing goal, because it's a good thing to do. You should That should be one of your major things in your marriage. Or one of the major things you should be doing is looking to own some property, because a lot of people don't own property because you don't want to rent. The whole time you're married, you don't want to continue renting. So it's a good thing to have that as a goal, to own some property together, or buy a house together. And sometimes some people, they buy like a summer home where they can go to, where if they frequent that spot, they don't have to use a hotel or anything. That's another altering goal. If you want to have children, that should be discussed as well. That's another question that should have been on here. Is when you first got with your wife, did you ask the question, do you want to have children? How many children you want to have? And what of the children that you wish to have, whether you want to have all boys, whether you want to have girls and boys. That should be all discussed before you walk down the aisle. We had a session of things that you should do or ask before you walk down the aisle. And sometimes you can go back to these general questions that I asked, and just ask the questions to yourself and see if you know the answer. And sometimes a lot of them you will know the answer, depending on how close you are with your spouse. You will know the answer, depending on how close you are with your spouse. So make sure that we hang in there together and keep the love flowing in our marriage, keep the love growing in our marriage, and continue to walk together in love. You don't walk behind, they say behind every good man is a woman, but beside every good man there is a woman. There's a good woman. And beside every good woman there is a good man. So we're going to walk together in love and continue in love. This is Pastor Larry, and we're going to be signing off until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. How well do you know your spouse? Now remember, all the music you hear on this program is from an app called Whoop Triggers Plus. Is available on the Android platform as well as the Apple platform. Till we meet again, let's talk marriage.